Medford's Most Wanted going back in time, counting down the Rogue Valley's worst offenders ever. Tonight is the first in a series of special reports.
The highest profile cases on record begin now with the 5th most wanted criminal. News 10's Krystle Henderson is here with more on that.
To make the top 5 cut of Medford's Most Wanted on record, you can only imagine what the cases involved. Brutal murders, rape, abduction. The person behind the case that takes the number 5 spot, Arnold Strehlow. The victim, his very own wife. Dolores Strehlow murdered on January 17, 1987. Her husband wanted for 7 years. A case unsolved until the 7th anniversary of her death. Detective Terry Newell remembers when it all started.
She was describing how she was having problems with her husband, Arnold Strehlow. She believed he was having an affair. She believed that he was spending their money. So she was going to confront him that evening. She tells her daughter in the phone conversation, "I'll call you tomorrow and let you know how it went." Daughter's never heard.
Arnold Strehlow had his own story of what happened that night.
He starts telling them some stories that she had run off. She had a beauty salon in Phoenix that she abandoned. There was a kind of a cryptic note left behind, explaining to the girls, "Hey, you go on without me," kind of thing. All things that were out of character for Dolores.
Police not satisfied, but when they went to question him again, he was missing.
He kind of panicked at one point, and he set a boat adrift on Lost Creek Lake. He left some cryptic suicide note behind, and he kind of staged his own suicide and disappeared for a while.
Strehlow didn't hide for long. Weeks later, he came back into the picture. The investigation was alive again, and Strehlow looked even more suspicious to investigators.
Later in the day, the neighbor reports seeing Arney dumping cement in the backyard, and ultimately what he had done is he had built a dog kennel, dog run, what turned out to be for a retired sheriff's police dog. Kind of an irony there.
When Strehlow heard detectives were coming to search his property, he moved his wife's body. For investigators, no body, no murder case. And so the case lingered for years, but Detective Newell wouldn't give up.
We all believed that Arney had taken her life, and we got this guy who's capable of doing this living in our community, and we know he's responsible for it, or believed that he was responsible, but yet we were just a little shy. It was one of those things where the old Proverbs, getting away with murder, you know. We couldn't let that happen. We first had to prove that Dolores was deceased, and we had to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt, and then we had to set in the play to prove that Arney was the one responsible for her murder.
For Newell, getting Strehlow to confess was all about timing.
I had learned that every year around the anniversary of her disappearance, he would have night sweats, and he would be, couldn't sleep, and would be irritable, and completely out of character for him. So that was the time we decided would be the most optimum time for us.
And on the anniversary of his wife's death, 7 years later, a break in the case.
We talked to him for about 6 hours, and it was pretty heated at times. But ultimately, Arney finally admitted that she had killed herself, shot herself in the head with a rifle, that he had cleaned up the scene, that he had wrapped her in a tarp and secured it with duct tape, that she was originally buried underneath the dog kennel in the backyard. And when he heard that we were going to dig the backyard, he exhumed her remains and took her out to a real forested area outside of Wimer. And that very specifically that he had buried underneath 3 logs in an old log dump at the end of the logging road.
Still not the confession police wanted, but at least it would lead them to her body. Police searched, and finally they found exactly what Strehlow had described. A blue tarp wrapped in duct tape under some logs. What they found inside, some bones, pieces of skull, a tooth, and a wedding ring, all belonging to Dolores Strehlow. Evidence enough to convict Arnold Strehlow of murder in court, and enough to finally give closure to the family. They now had a date to put on her headstone they've been praying at for 7 years.
It was nice to be able to give them a date that we could finally say we found their mom.
Arnold Strehlow is still behind bars serving a life sentence. Covering your news, Krystle Henderson, News 10.